let's go ahead and add a navigation link to this practice areas archive page, and then we'll get started on creating this, which I think we'd just be able to use that same shortcode that we just created for this page. Let's go ahead and add that to our menu items. So practice areas, let's just do a main link to them. So let's do custom links and then / practice areas. And I'm in the wrong menu. Let me copy this so I gotta rewrite it again. Let's go to the header menu, not the footer. And custom link here, call it practice area. Okay, and save it. Let's do a refresh. Practice areas, home. Okay. All right, so next we need to configure this page. So I just realized something, that we can't use Elementor for the archive page if we do it this way. So what I'm going to do is go back over here inside of our CPT UI. We're going to scroll down and we're going to find where it says has archive. Okay, it doesn't have an archive. That's good. Okay, I was thinking it was going to have an archive. An archive basically creates this practice areas page and then tries to pull it automatically, but you got to style it, and we'd have to do a whole bunch of styling inside of the code, the template for it, in order to make it where it reacts like Elementor. So what we're going to do is actually edit this page with Elementor. So let's go pages, add new, and this is going to be practice areas. And then here, only thing we need to do is just add that shortcode that we created, which was what did we call it? Practice _ areas. So no, gotta do it this way. So let's do shortcode practice areas, and then publish that page out. And now refresh. There we go. It's kind of ugly this way though. So we need to style it so that it's not so big. Why is it bigger here than it is on the home page? It should be the same. It's because it's inside of a container. Okay, so let's get rid of it here. We're going to remove the block here. We're going to edit it with Elementor, and we're going to add in that container. So we want a full width container, and then over here we're going to do shortcode, drag it over, and now let's paste that shortcode again. There we go. That looks much better. It's actually staying within inside of the container. Okay, so that's what we want that page to look like. Let me look and see if there's anything that we need to add to it. Let's just add a title to it. So let's add a title, and we're going to center this, make it an H1, and let's do practice areas. We're going to style it the normal typography, and let's make it like 30 pixels. No, let's do REM and do 2 REM, 3 REM. That looks good. And let's add some margin on the bottom. So let's add a margin of 30 pixels. Need a little more. Let's do 80 pixels. Nope, too much. What about 50 pixels? That looks good. Alright, so let's update that and refresh. So now we have our practice areas page. If you click on a practice area, it brings you to the individual practice area. So we were able to reuse that shortcode. That's the reason why we created a shortcode instead of trying to build it out through Elementor, because then we would have to duplicate it as a template and then load it into the page every time we wanted to change it. And if there was any services that were added to it, they'd have to be added manually. Whereas this way, whenever they get added to the back end, they automatically get added to the front end. Okay, so now we have our archive page. So the next step for us is going to be setting up the individual page for this, which we can't do through Elementor. So we're going to have to edit it and kind of make it work with Elementor's layout. So the first thing that we need to do here is, obviously, we need to create a page or base our design of this single off of a page. So let's go to, I don't know, let's go create just a standard page. So let's exit to our dashboard, and let's just create, I think we're going to need like an About Us page. So let's go ahead and just create a new page. Let's get rid of these. Okay, so add new page, and then we're just going to call this About Us, and let's go ahead and publish it. So we view the page, and then we're going to open this page up with Elementor. Now, okay, let's go back to the administration and edit it with Elementor here, because I think you have to initialize it before you can actually use it. So let me look at my design for the practice areas, and essentially it's just going to be the information with the title, and then a contact form, and then on the right side it's going to be a place for the practice areas. So let's go ahead and build out something that has a title in it, content, and then we'll figure out how to break it up into two categories. So let's click here and build this. I guess I should have made it where it was a secondary column, but let's have it where the content is going to be stretched over to about, let's say, 75%. So let's do this one at 25% and then 75%. So over here we're going to grab a header, and then we're going to put content in a form. So it's just going to be content on this side, links on this side. So I think that's all we need for this one. So let's go ahead and hit update, because I just want to grab the structure of it. The rest of it we can pull from the code. So for right now, let's just go to /about us, and then this will give us our page with the structure that we need. So let's inspect it, and we're just going to grab that row that I created to make sure that we have everything that we need. So it didn't open up inspect. Why is it not opening inspect? It says F12, no. Alright, let's do view page source then. Okay, well, that was weird, but I had to restart my browser. I don't know what happened, but it wasn't allowing me to do anything. I couldn't even open up an image. But now, if I inspect the element, it'll bring me to where I want it to go. So let's get outside of our header. So let's go ahead and minimize our header down. And now we have this data Elementor type WP page. What we're wanting is going to be contained inside of here. So we have an inner, the wrap, and then this is where the actual section starts with the row and the column. So right now they're blank. So what we can do is just take this, right click on it, and then copy that element. And then inside of our Visual Studio Code, we're going to create a page that is for the single practice areas. So let me open up Visual Studio. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what we need to do is create a new page or a new file, and we're going to call it single-practice-areas.php. And then for right now, I'm just going to comment out the code that I pasted. Throw in some PHP so I can comment this. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with my typing right now. Okay, alright, so let's clean this up a little bit. Alright, let's not worry about that right now. What we're going to do is we got to call the default functions for WordPress in order to get the header and the footer. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's do get underscore header, and then let's come down here to the end of this, and we're going to do another one, PHP get underscore footer, and this way we'll WordPress will just know that it's a actual page that we need to do. So let's just put this on one line, and then start a new one here, and then end it here so we can actually play around with it. Okay. Alright, so now if we go back to our browser, so let me open up Chrome again over here. So if we go back to our browser, and now if we go to the practice areas, close this, and then sample, now it still doesn't show anything, but at least we know that we're on this page. So if I'm just going to go into Visual Studio, I'm just going to type in something, so we're just going to say test, and then if we come back over here and refresh, now we see test. So this means that that is actually, it's pulling it where we want it to. So it's actually pulling that single template. So now we can go back to Visual Studio and edit that template. So let's come back over here, and just so we can see if everything's going to line up the way that we want it to, let's go ahead and just type out the page information using the Elementor stuff that we copied. Okay, so I'm going to just save that, and let's say just inside of here we're going to put test. Now we're not going to keep all of this code. This is just going to be what we have on there. For right now, we're going to actually simplify it a little bit more, but this is just kind of giving us that framework that we're looking for in order to create that page. So now I'm going to go back over to the browser and refresh and let y'all see that. As you can see here, this is the test that's in the second column. Right now it's 50-50, so we're going to change that whenever we go to actually build out the code, but if we had another test in the first one, it would be about right here. So let's go back over to the code and start customizing this a little bit, kind of get rid of all the stuff that we don't really need, and then we'll just kind of continue from there. Okay, so whenever you create a page, we want to make sure that it pulls content from WordPress. So there's a thing we're going to have to wrap our entire HTML inside of, and that's going to be the while loop for PHP. So we're going to do PHP while have underscore post, and then if it does, we're going to get the post, and then it's going to display the information that we want inside of it. But now we need to end our while statement. So PHP end while, and then we end that there. Alright, so now we most likely don't need, like this stuff up here. So we just want to create the column and the row and the columns inside of that row. So let's go ahead and try to pull out some of that. So we got the row and the column, and it's 50. The rest of the information that's contained inside of this column, we're probably not going to need that, but let's keep it in there just in case. And then let's clean it up a little bit so we can actually read it a little bit better. Alright, so now we have our row, and this is on the wrong line. So now we have our column, and then we have our second column that starts here. And then again we have that wrap, we have the text that we currently have in there, and then we're going to close out that wrap, or close out that close out the wrap, and then close out the column, and then finally we're going to close out that row. So from here to here is what we're going to be working with. But we also want to make sure it stays inside of the container, so let's go ahead and keep that as well. And I believe section is something that Elementor uses as well. So let's go ahead and keep the section to the section. I don't think we need any of this, so let's get rid of these divs just so we have this smaller section to work with. And we don't need to have the data ID or anything like that, so let's go ahead and get this and take it out, and then we can look through it. And again, we don't need to have the element with the data ID on it, but we do need to make sure that it's boxed because we want it to stay within inside of that container. So we got section, top section, it's an element, and then it's boxed. And then the height default, we don't really care about that just because it's going to be the height of the content that we're using. So that's the first part that we need. And now let's take this entire section. We're going to bring it over so it lines up with where we want it. So we do want it to have use the container and use the gap default column width, and then we're going to have our row. And then on this one, instead of being 50, we're going to make it 75, and we're going to make this one 25. So that'll give us the 75% width and the 25% width. Now inside of this, we can get rid of this element because we're not using that. We can also get rid of the data ID because we're also not using that, and then we can get rid of data ID here because again we're not using it. So now we have our we got our row and we got our column, we got the width of the column, and I mean, I don't think it really matters if you keep this in here, so let's just go ahead and keep that in there for now. And then inside of that we have our column wrap and our widget wrap. So I'm going to put on this side, we're going to say left, and on this one we're going to say right. So that'll give us an idea of where we need to put our content at. So let's switch back over to the browser here and refresh, and now we have a left and a right that's inside of that container. Okay, so now we need to add a header, and let's go back, let's go out of this, and we're going to go back to the content that we have for these practice areas because we created a custom meta box for the blurb. We want to have it where it displays the title, the blurb, and then the information, and then a contact form. So we know we want to use the blurb, and we can take the same code that we did on the home page to grab that blurb and add it there. So let's switch back over to our Visual Studio, and if we go to practice areas here, if we scroll up, we got some information. So we got this do shortcode is going to be the blurb, and get the title is going to be for the title. So let's come over here and we're going to say that this is going to be an H1 because it is the first header on the page, and we're going to do PHP echo get the title, and then down here let's do like an H2, and then we're just going to paste in what we copied. So PHP echo do shortcode. Okay, so now that should be our header, our subheader, and then we're going to do PHP echo get the content, or the content. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the content. So let's try the content, and then let's switch back over to our browser just to make sure that it's grabbing what we want it to grab. Go over here and refresh. Alright, so the H2 tag is bigger than our H1 tag. I'm assuming that's because of a class that we have set up, but it's actually pulling the information that we want it to, and it's contained within inside of, it looks like it's not completely lined up with the rest of it. So let's see what we're missing between that and this. So let's inspect this and see what this is pulling to give it that padding on the left and the right, and make sure that we add it there. So this is the one that it's currently using because it has that small spacing on the side of it, which would be the container. So inside of that container, it looks like the column wrap is using Elementor element populated, which is giving it a 10 pixel padding around it. So let's take this code, and then we're going to open up our Visual Studio, and we're just going to paste it into our wrap here. So we got that. Nope, that's not it. Here. So we got this, and then we can paste it here as well, and that should give us that extra spacing around it that the rest of the content is using. Now let's refresh. Whoa, okay, that's not what I wanted it to do at all. Alright, so let's see what's happening here. It's putting it in, looks like it's 5 columns. So column 75, column wrap populated. Okay, let's go back down to here and see what other classes is being called after this. Actually, you know what? Let's do this an easier way. Let's take that away and go back here. So we're going to remove this. Now let's just add a class to the top of it, and then we can control it better. So gap default, data type section, Elementor top column. Okay, so we're going to add a class to this section, and let's just call it single. Nope, let's not call it that because the class is already created. I'll show you where I get this at. So if we go back to our Chrome and we go all the way to the top of the body class, we got practice areas, template default, single. So let's copy single practice areas because that class is going to be used for anything using that that custom single file. Refresh that to get it back to where it was, and let's go back to Visual Studio, and then inside of our styles, let's take this class that we copied, and then let's take the column Elementor column wrap. Is that what we really want to do? I'm trying to think about this in real time as we're doing it. So it takes a little bit of playing around with it to make it work the way you want it to, but let's just say I don't want it to affect anything else that's inside of a column wrap, like it would add padding to the bottom of the site if we just use that class. Alright, so let's do create a class over here, and let's do content. So that'll give us a class that we can pull from. So single areas, and then content, and then that wrap. And then we're going to add padding 10 pixels around it. Okay, now let me go back so you can view the browser. And I refreshed the screen, and now it has that extra padding around it like this one does down here. So that's kind of what we're looking for on this. Now let me look at the design. I want to make the H1 tag be a little bit different, so I'm going to go over and look at the styles. How can we do that? Alright, so let's say we're going to come over to here. Make sure y'all can see it. Nope. Alright, so switch back over here. And inside of our practice areas, single practice areas, we're going to use the same classes that we just created, the content, and then we're going to do our H1 and our H2. So let's copy this. Instead of doing Elementor wrap, we're going to do H1, and I want the color to be the primary color like we're using for up here. So this is going to be color, and then it's going to use that color primary. And then let's say the font size, and let's make it to REM. And then let's do something else for the H2 tag. Let me look at it real quick. That's fine. Let's just leave that one as it is. So let's get rid of this and save that. And let's open Chrome back up and do a refresh. Alright, so now we have our header. H1's a little different than our H2. It stands out a little bit more. So now we need to grab the list code that we added to the home page. So if we go back to the home page, we have this. That's what we're going to display inside of the individual practice areas, so we can reuse that functionality. So let me switch back over to Visual Studio, and now if we go to practice areas, and let's grab this practice areas link shortcode, and then we're just going to be able to paste that inside of this right side. So let's do PHP echo do shortcode, and then paste in a shortcode format, and then close that out. We also want to have an H2 over here, so let's do H2 Let me see what I want it to look like. Actually, let's not do an H2. Let's do an H3 since we already have an H2. And then we're just going to call this all practice areas. Okay, so now let's switch back over to the browser. And there we go. So that's kind of what we're wanting. I'm not really a fan of the lines under the links, but we'll do something with that in just a minute. So let's look around for a little bit. And if we go to our home page over here, any practice area that we now click on, so let's try sample 6, should have the same. So we got the title, the dummy subtitle, the content, and then the links over here. So let's go ahead and get rid of these links, and I'm probably going to increase the size of this H3. So we're going to do switch back over to Visual Studio and get to our styles, and let's do H3, and we want it to stay the same color. So let's get rid of that, and let's do the font size of 1.5 rem, and then down here we can copy that again and do the A tag and do text decoration none. So text decoration none, and we'll view that in just a second. So is there anything else that we need to do for this page? No. So we got our practice areas, we got our archive practice areas, and our home page done. Okay, well, I guess we can go ahead and view it now, and then we'll go to another page to see what we can do there. So now this is a little bit bigger, and then we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 the way that we want them, and it's lining up with the content. So we need to add a form at the bottom down here, and we're just going to use a plugin for that. You can use any kind of plugin that you want. The plugin that I'm going to use is, let's see, I need to look through one of the ones that I've done before, because I always use the same one, but I can never remember what it is. Fluent Forms. Okay, so again, not something that I work for. It's not something that I'm advocating. You can use whatever you want, but I've seen Fluent Forms as a pretty good drag and drop contact form generator. So we got Fluent Forms here. So let's go ahead and install that. It's taking its time. There we go. Okay, so let's activate it, and then we're going to go to Fluent Forms and create a form, and we're just going to have a general contact form. Okay, so first name, last name, email, subject, your message. So what we want to do that's going to be different than any other contact form that we do is that we're going to have where there's a hidden field that populates which practice area they're on. So whenever the client gets an email, it's going to get an email stating which page that they were on. So let's come over here and let's just do a regular simple text field, put it up top, and we're going to call this no, let's not do a text field. I think there's a hidden field. Let's go back one. Hidden. There we go. Let's do that hidden field. Okay, so now we come over here and we want the value. If you click on these 3 dots over here, we can select from different things. So we want to grab the page title and have it embedded. So we're just going to call this on the administration side, let's see, practice area selected, and it's going to be hidden. Alright, so now we save that form and we got our shortcode here. So we're going to copy that to the clipboard, and then we're going to go back to we're going to go back to Visual Studio, and underneath our get the content, let me see, do I want to add anything to it? Request a consultation. Okay, so let's do here, let's do like an H3, request a consultation, and then we can add in some dummy text there as well. but the important part is this PHP echo do underscore shortcode, and then we're going to paste in that fluent form ID1 that we had. So let me grab some dummy text. Let's say you can complete the following form to request a consultation. Okay, so now let's go back to our Chrome and back over here to a single practice area, refresh, and we have our consultation form. I'm going to go ahead and center this in the Visual Studio Code. It's pretty easy to do. You just add a class of text align center. Well, that's in using Bootstrap. So we're going to do style equals text align center. And then I'm just going to copy that. I know y'all can't see what I'm doing right now, but it's a quick change. So if you've gotten this far, you probably know how to use text align center. Alright, so now if we refresh this, that'll just make it look a little cleaner. And then we can go to submit forms. So what I want to do is we have this button. It's like a light blue. I want to make it this color blue. So let's try to remember what color that is. And we can't use the global color primary just because it's not something that's going to be available to Fluent Forms. So we're going to have to find the actual color code for it. So it's that 445A81. Then we're going to go to our editor. We're going to click on this, and default style is going to change to custom. The background color is going to be that color. Text is fine. We'll just do the border color, make it the same. And then whenever they go to hover, background color is going to be white. So this would kind of give it like a transparent look on it. Alright, so now let's save the form and refresh, and it blends in a little bit better with the rest of our design. Let's make it a little bit bigger. So large. Okay. So let's save that form, and then that's the only form that we need to create because now it exists on all practice areas. And if we inspect this, we can see where it's adding that hidden field. So we have hidden with the refer. And then, where's it at? There is a hidden field somewhere in here. It's name, group, error. It is added. Post title is the name. No, the name is hidden. Let's change that so we can actually find it. Let's do name attribute. Let's say practice area selected. Save form. Now let's refresh. Practice area selected, value sample 1. So whenever they get an email, it'll actually say that practice area sample 1 has been selected. Okay. Alright, so now we have the practice area archive page is done. The shortcodes for practice areas displayed on the home page, and then we also have the single page for the practice area with a custom content contact form. So that should wrap up today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, definitely give me a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed to this channel and you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you're aware of next time I do a video. But I think that's going to be it, and I will see you next time.